Hey, what's up everybody? We're back with my attempt at a tutorial on how to waterproof a project so that you could add running water like this one here. This is actually my original water fountain slash planter that I'd made a while back. I was about midway through that build when I came across a video on how to make a realistic muddy river diorama by Luke Talon. I put a link to that video in the description. Was just absolutely blown away at what this guy could do. So I figured I would try my hand at doing something like that. This is not a tutorial on how I actually made this project, and I'll be using a new project that I'm working on to show the examples on how to waterproof. I would really be doing you a disservice by an attempt at a tutorial on how to make a project like this. When you see Luke's videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. He's definitely got all of that covered. So no sense in me trying that, because like I said, I would just be repeating everything that he has said. So we'll just leave all of that with him. The waterproofing on this project was pretty straightforward. I just used, well, I'll show you the stuff that I used on the next one as to demonstrate the next one rather. But it was pretty much just painting that on and then letting it dry and then painting it to the color to match the stonework on everything. The new project's a little bit more involved because I wanted the dirt texture look in regards to in the stream, whereas this particular model here was more of a rocky riverbed, so it was a little bit easier. Also, I should note that this is a little louder than what you hear right now, and I'm getting ready to remove the piece that's keeping it running a little bit quieter than normal. I have a fairly sensitive microphone on my camera here, so it would be rather annoying if it was going the entire time while I'm talking. In reality, it's not as loud as what it seems on the video, but I will remove that piece and we'll let you see what that really sounds like there. Okay, so as you can see, it's got a little bit of a sound to it, but like I said, in reality, it's not that bad. A little louder than a fish tank would be, but it's just one of those where to have the waterfall, you got to deal with the noise a little bit, and then also there's a little bit of a splash factor to keep in mind. But this is just sitting on a normal wood top table, so it's fine. It's nothing too major. There again, just something that you have to do if you're wanting any type of a waterfall going on. I tried multiple ways to avoid the splashing, and this is the best I can come up with as far as surrounding where it actually hits. This originally started out where all of this here was not here. If I can just keep it on this one rock here, all of this here wasn't here. It was actually falling straight down to the pond, and so I had to add this. Almost has like a backsplash. So, but anyways, to keep the splashing down. Outside of that, it's not too bad. So the pump for this one is down here in the bottom, and that's what the center rock there is hiding the pump, and also the tubing that goes up. I had tried to lay the pump on the side, but my base there wasn't quite deep enough to let me do that, so it was starting to pull in air from the pump, which in turn puts bubbles coming down the stream, which isn't good for either the pump or the aesthetics of everything. The only change I may have made is that this bottom portion here, that second lower waterfall, I wish I had turned it a little bit because I like how that waterfall looks, but you can't really see it when you're looking at it from the front. You kind of have to poke your head down inside there to see it, so I wish I'd put that at a little bit of an angle. But anyways, outside of that though, it turned out not too bad, I don't guess. Alright, so I guess we'll get everything turned off. All the lights are individual lights. That's one of the things I wish they changed, but the whole K section was kind of an afterthought. But all the lights are individual little key light candles, so I have to go through and pull things out, turn them off. But we'll be back with the actual tutorial on how to waterproof things. Actually, one thing I wanted to point out before we go to the next one, or I show you everything else. So this is the bottom. This is what the water is actually in. This is the bottom to a seed starter, and I've actually used the top to this for the next project. This one I cut down just a little bit too much, which is why it's not in the project, but it is sitting in there pretty much like that. It has a little lip that comes on for the lid to snap onto, and so of course I had to remove that lip off to keep it flush with the top of the foam. But like I said, I took a little too much off of that and had to use another one. But these are pretty much perfect for what I'm using them for in regards to the amount of water they hold, because it's something that you have to kind of keep in mind in regards to when it is running, how much water it takes out of the reservoir, pulls it down below the level where it needs to maintain to keep the pump from taking in air. So you have to keep in mind to where when it's not running, the amount of water that is going to flow back into the reservoir doesn't overflow the reservoir, because you don't want to have to empty water out of it every time you go to turn it off. But anyway, so there's kind of a little bit of a fine line that had to walk on that, but we got around it, and so things work out. The lid was a little easier because it's a little deeper, and I didn't cut it down. We just used it as it was. All right, on second thought, we're going to leave all the candles running just because it takes a little while to get in there and get them turned off. Anyways, so this is pretty much just a small replica of what we've got going on the bigger project here, which is of course what that is right there. Due to my video capabilities, or lack thereof, the editing, I guess, more importantly, I can't really film a project because it would be a ton of different videos, so pretty much just have to work with what I've got here. So anyways, so this is pretty much, like I said, we start out with everything that most of my projects are all this foam right here. There are parts to it that are ceramic, like the project in the back there, the mountain and all that is ceramic, but everything else is pretty much foam. The reason being, the stuff is great to work with. It's very easy to work with. You can cut it with a knife. They do make hot wire foam cutters, but I just use a knife. I mean, it's so, I mean, you can just take your fingernail, which I don't have any fingernails, but I mean, you can just dig right in and get a piece. Not only that, just in cutting it and getting it down to where you need it, once you paint it, it already looks like rock. So if that's the look that you're going for, throw a coat of gray paint on it, and that's what you got. And that's what the bulk of the bottom back there is, pretty much just the foam painted. I put some dents and cuts into it to give it some texture, but a lot of that is just the foam, the way that it looks once it's been cut. Anyway, so what you'll do is if you're just doing one level, like the top of this project in the back is, it's really nothing to it. You trench out where you want your water to run, and then you will take this right here and just give it a generous coating of this. I get this at, well, it's available at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. I've seen it in both places, but this is what I found works best. I'm certainly no professional. I just started doing this. This is my second project in the very back, and then my third project that we're using as an example. as far as ones with water. But anyways, but this is what I found works pretty well. Generous coating of that. If you're doing like a rock bottom, if it's going to be covered up, you just put a generous coating of this, and then you can paint it to whatever color you need it before you cover it up with the rocks, like what I've done in the past. This new project is a little different, and so it's a little bit more involved. There's a few more tricks to it, so that's what we're trying to show you today. Okay, so for the first coat, when it comes to doing dirt texture in the bottom, which I guess I'll give you, I'm doing everything in a mirror, so I apologize. Sorry how everything's kind of backwards. But, so that'll give you an idea of what we're going for here. So, you set back down and steady. So the first coat, pretty simple. You just take your stuff here, and you'll just pour that in there. Oh, I think I may have left the normally pour it out here. Yeah. A little bit of a smell to it, but anyways, a little bit in there, and of course, put this over it. And you just give it a good coating in there. And of course, we're not going for perfection here. This is just to kind of give you an idea. So, so this would be your first coat, and you want to go pretty heavy with it. And then I like to let that dry. That way I know that there's a nice, good coat everywhere. I don't have anything in between the foam and the poly. So I like to let my first coat dry. And then once it's dry, I'll come back and I'll do what I just did. Pour more into it, spread it all out, and then this time I'll take my dirt texture, which for depending on what you're doing, you can either use a spoon like I'm getting ready to, or in Luke's videos he uses pretty much, this is a stocking over a jar with dirt in it, and so use this to kind of get you a nice even coat, but that's usually your final coat. So like what we're doing here, I can just use the spoon because we're going for a good heavy coat. So pretty much just, like I said, this first layer, no big deal. You can go as heavy with the poly and the dirt as you want to, because it's going to be covered by other layers. I'd probably go a little overboard on how much waterproofing I put in it, but I also want to make sure that it doesn't leak. And like I said, I'm kind of trial and error with everything, so I don't want it to leak down the road when it's way too late for something like that to happen. But anyway, so this is pretty much what you have. I've just poured that dirt out, and at this point, now that we've got, like I said, we're not going for perfection. If we were, I'd make sure that the entire inside was coated, but since we're not. So, and then also the same stuff can be put into a spray bottle. Disclaimer though, this is actually Mod Podge watered down. It's not the actual stuff, not that it matters. You wouldn't know if I didn't tell you. And then this is isopropyl alcohol. There again, all these techniques, as far as like the dirt and stuff, I learned from Luke's videos. I highly recommend checking his out. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to spray this on here first, like this. And what that does is that breaks the surface tension on everything, and then that way that's going to allow this, missed the alcohol in the face, not good. But anyways, and then you'll spray that in there, and then that alcohol allows the poly to penetrate and get you a good seal. And so Then you let that dry, upwind, downwind from the alcohol there, killing me. But anyway, so you'll let this dry. The trick comes into your final layers. You don't want to put the poly on too heavy, because if you do, it will give you a milky look, and that will kind of ruin everything that you're going for. Now if you do multiple layers, then what you'll do is you will pretty much take your next piece that you're going to go on top with, and you pretty much want to make a T shape out of it. You need that little drop down to go into the next river below it, or next stream area. So what you'll do, and that way it will fit down in like that. And so that's pretty much how I have on the new project the multiple layers of foam on top of one another, and then that way my water flows where I want it to. You'll find that water will go everywhere other than where you want it to, unless you make sure it's doing what you want. So like here, you even have to trench in fairly deep, even though the water's running down just the front over there, and in theory should run straight down. It wants to attach to the sides there and then run around and then drip off the back. So unless you, like I said, make it go where you want it to go, it tends to have a mind of its own. So just make sure that you trench everything pretty deep, and you shouldn't have any problems. So, but like I said, yeah, that'll just fit down in there, and then you're good to go. Okay, also I guess I should note, once you get to this point, like when everything's dried and you'll come in and you're going to do your final layer, like I said, again, you'll spray with the isopropyl alcohol and then with the glue, and then you'll use your sifter here to see if I can't get this to stay, and then you'll just go through and what that does is that gives you a nice even coat of everything. And like I said, this is your final layer here, so you'll want to do this. And this being your final layer, then you'll give it another light spraying with the alcohol. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to breathe it in again. But then when it comes to your final sprays of your poly, you just want to give it one or two sprays, and then let it set, let that dry, and then come back and give it another couple of sprays. I do use a hair dryer in between sprays, so it's not taking forever. But pretty much you just want to do a couple of pumps. That way you don't want it, you want it saturated, but just very lightly, because you're trying to maintain the dirt texture look when it's all said and done. And if you go too heavy with the poly, then it will have a milky finish to it, which, like I said, is not what you're after. Okay, so as you can see, this new one here is multiple layers. So we've got the base here where the water reservoir is at, and we've got your main layer here, and this one here is based off an actual location, whereas the one back there is not. That was just, it just came to be how it came to be. But this one here, I pass by this place during the day at work sometimes, and so that's what this one is based off of. Although the scale is different, in reality the actual location, the pond area is only about 10-15 feet wide, maybe, probably not even that. So when this one's finished, the scale will be different, but it's based off of that. Anyway, so this first layer here, I thought would be sufficient. I thought I could get enough of a drop down as far as carving out, but I couldn't. So then that's where this layer came in, and then this still wasn't enough. So then we added this layer here, and so then that eventually gave me the drop down that I was looking for. See if we can get it turned here. But anyways, I'll give you a better shot of what that looks like here in just a moment. But we're going to take the top off and we'll show you the water reservoir. So if it were just going to be like a diorama without the water reservoir up under it, this is pretty much would be the side profile. So it really wouldn't be that thick. It's actually pretty narrow, especially down there towards the front. But anyways, since you got the word reservoir, it is what it is. So this is the bottom, and pretty much just, like I said, this is the lid to the seed planter. And the company name is Jiffy. I don't know if I put that there or not, but anyway, so that's just pretty much drop down in the foam. Like I said, it works out as far as the depth of these works out really well. As far as the thickness of the foam, I did have to add the cardboard. I typically wouldn't use something like this in my project, but since I didn't want to cut this lip off, it's got a little plastic lip that I wanted to use to attach it, so this cardboard made up the height difference there. But, and there's since it's all foam, it is super light. I mean, this thing right here weighs like nothing. I mean, there's just nothing to it at all. It's a little cumbersome because it's a couple of feet by a couple of feet, probably 2.5 feet long by 2 feet wide, something like that. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, there's nothing to it, light as can be. So that's pretty much that. And also, this has grown since I first started with it. So it started out as an original. That's why the front here is added to it. Originally it wasn't going to extend out, it wasn't going to have the pond up front, but I added that to it. I'm pretty bad about adding things, or pretty good, whatever you want to call it, but I can't hardly finish a project because I keep adding things to it. Alright, I did want to show where I've got the water running through the back here. On the first one that I did, I've got the tubing actually comes over the top here and down in, and this one here is actually running through the back. I say I typically don't like to do that, but there again, I've only done a couple of these, but I would prefer not to do this. I'm nervous anytime as far as the waterproofing is concerned. If this was sitting on top, then obviously you don't have to worry about any kind of leak because it's flowing into the channel, whereas this right here, you always have a possibility for a leak just because it is penetrating through the back wall. But I wasn't going to have everything going on that I had on the other one back here to help hide the tube coming over, so I wanted the tube to come through. Pretty much what I did not cut a hole in the back of the tube. I took a skewer and poked a hole, and then rounded out that hole without removing any material, pretty much trying to compress it, and then that way the tube is actually shoved through there. I didn't remove any foam, just shoved the tube through there once I had the hole big enough, and then that way I've got kind of a compression fitting going on. Sorry about the squeak of the foam on the table there, but I had kind of a compression fitting, and then I took and dripped the poly over this several times, probably 20 times I would imagine. Would drip it till it went around and then dripped off the bottom, and let that dry, and then do it again. Same way with the inside. I don't think it will ever leak. I mean, it is crazy how much poly and dirt is on the inside. But anyways, like I said, anytime you have a penetration through the foam, then the potential for a leak is always there. Same way with, I'm not a big fan of how much room it takes for the tubing to come out and make the turn. I could put an elbow in right here, 90 up, and then another elbow and 90 to save myself the room. But there again, that adds 4 potential leak areas in the back, which I just would rather not. I'll just have this sit off the wall or wherever it sits. It'll just have to sit out a little bit, and is what it is. But that way I don't have to, since this is one piece, no worries about a leak or anything like that. Alright, well, I'm trying to pause the camera, but it's not working out for me. So we'll see if I can get this spun around. got the cord hanging off the back, so it makes it a little tough maneuvering sometimes. But I'm going to pick up the camera, so we're getting ready to get a little unsteady here, but I'm going to try to show you what we're after here as far as the dirt texture. And I did get a little heavy there in the middle. See how it's a little milky looking there in the middle, where I did get a little heavy. I'd actually just fixed this because I was real heavy up against one of the walls there. But on the last couple of sprays, I got just a little heavy right there in the center. But like I said, that's what you're after is when it's all said and done. It's got the nice dirt texture look to it, because the water, since it's clear and it's very shallow, obviously you see everything right through it pretty much. I don't know if you could like add food coloring to it to muddy it up a little bit. I don't think that would hurt the pump. But anyway, so yeah, so we will get some water in it, and we'll see what it looks like with it up and running. See if I can get the camera to pause this time. Also, real quick, before we get to that part, I wanted to show you, I almost forgot, as far as the pump and everything on the bottom. So we got the pump here. Of course, that's just going to sit down into the reservoir. So, and then I've just got it notched out here and hot glued. That's the tube, and then the plug coming back here, and then of course got this piece back here to kind of make sure that stays up in there. But this also acts as a stopper. So when I put it on the base, I pull it to me, and then it stops up against the base of it and lets me know. Well, I already know because I can tell from the top. But anyways, it doesn't let it come any further forward. But that's pretty much it. And like I said, this sits right down into the base. Everything else runs out of the back. This was pretty simple in regards to the setup with everything, putting in the pump and all of that. The first one that I did, like I said, this is all trial and error, but it's a lot more trial and error on the first one than there was this one. Alright, so this is pretty much this one when it's running. The lighting has a lot to do with how it looks in regards to the reflection coming off of the water. So I will kind of move the camera a little bit and give you an idea of what I mean as far as the difference and everything. My duck is made out of foam. He's tethered to the bottom so he doesn't go anywhere. He actually would swim in circles before I tethered him, but he would only swim in circles for about 30 seconds or so before he would get attached to the side and then just sit there. But it was actually pretty cool because he would face in the right direction as he would swim in those circles, and it looked pretty realistic. So this is pretty much it. This is a lot quieter than the other one because the water, as you can see, doesn't have very far to fall. Just right in there to the reservoir. And even though I know I said the water was clear, you can pretty much see right through it, which you can. Fortunately, though, as far as that milky area, that is hidden, fortunately, by the water coming down through there. So this is just about done. Got to finish grassing, as you can see. I've got trees for it and everything, so we'll put those on real quick just to give you an idea of what it will look like when it's finished. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Of course, it's kind of hard to tell having the other project behind it, but so like I said, just got to finish grassing the one side, and that one will pretty much be done. So as far as the trees and things are concerned, again, Luke Talon has tutorials on how to do those. As far as he makes them out of florist wire, and then he also uses natural trees, which all of my trees here are branches, other than the two weeping willow trees, and I use the florist wire on those. He does not have, as far as I know, does not have a tutorial on a weeping willow tree, so I will try to get one of those up. It's pretty much the same process as he uses on his normal trees. It's just the very end, instead of making short branches, obviously you'll want to do longer ones, but there's a couple of tricks to that as well. So we'll go over that in a tutorial also, as well as the lighting is concerned. The tea light candles that I used on the other project, they come in pretty handy outside of having to turn each one on and off individually. If I could do it by remote, that would be awesome, but they're pretty useful in regards to getting light where you want it. But anyways, that should do it for me, and I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next one.